So how do you do? Define vector A and B in what you call your coordinate form, and take the dot product ax, bx, ay, by, az, bz. You know mod A, mod B, cos theta. Am I right? Cos theta, you have to find cos theta. So what is vector A? What is x component? Speak out. What is y component? 0. Am I right? It's perpendicular to y. So 0, y cap. What is z component? 1 again. 1 into z cap. Am I right? X component, y component is 0, z component is 1. Vector B is equal to, yeah, speak out. X component is 0, y component is 1, z component is 1. Am I right? So mod of A vector is root of ax square plus ay square plus az square. Root 2. Similarly, mod B is root 2. So A dot B is ax bx plus ay by plus az bz. Am I right? So this is equal to mod A, mod B, cos theta. So that's equal to what is ax bx? Ax bx. This is ax ay az, bx by bz. Ax bx 0, 0, 1. Am I right? That's why cos theta is equal to 1 by mod A mod B is equal to 1 by root 2, 1 by 2. What is theta? 30 degree. 30 degree. Here you do the mistake. All ideas will be collapsed here. 60 degree. Yeah, that's why we can use that dot product to find the angle between any two vectors. If you know the coordinate form of those vectors, you can quickly find the angle between them. Okay. He designed one more question in problem number 1.4. I hope you are using 4th edition. Okay. This is 4th edition of Griffiths Electrodynamics, and solution manual is also available. But that is instructor solution manual, not student solution manual. You can see that one. Okay. That means only I can use that one. Only I have to, only not I mean you can, isn't it? But you should not. Now, problem number 1.3, let me not solve that outside problem. You try it yourself, okay? Let me solve it later. If you feel difficulty, let me solve it later. Problem number 1.3 and 1.4. 1.3 is find the angle between body diagonals of the cube. But there will be two angles, am I right? Whenever you have two lines like this, you have one angle like this, other angle like this. It all depends how you have taken the vectors. Suppose if you have taken vector A here, vector B here, definitely while using this one you are finding this angle, isn't it? Be careful. So find the angle between body diagonals of the cube, and yeah, this one you better to do that one. Now one more problem. So this is problem number, I think here in this 4th edition there is no confusion. Okay. I mean, in Griffiths Quantum Mechanics, that 2nd edition have got two types, am I right? One green color book, other one is red color book. There was some mismatch in the problem numbers actually. Some additional problems were there. And in the solution manual also. But here there is no mismatch, okay? 4th edition is only one book. There are no different type of books here. So that's why I hope there will be no confusion here, okay? If I talk about problem number 1.4 in, that is 4th edition, okay? 4th edition. Which one? Okay. In the new book, he will write it as 4. Okay, yeah. Okay, 4th edition again have got two books, isn't it? But no additional problem. Everything is synced, am I right? So 1.4 means first chapter, 4th problem. That was the best one, am I right? So in the very new book, he is writing problem number 4 in the first chapter. But this is better, okay? So if you got new book, this is P4, so problem 4, okay? If it is old 4th edition book, not 3rd edition, problem number 1.4. I prefer this one, okay? That's better. because after we discuss whole book, so this is the best idea, am I right? Suppose 11.4, what is that one? 11 chapter 4th problem, isn't it? That's best idea. But in your book, he will mention only this number for the problem, okay? Because he already mentioned the chapter name, I mean chapter number, isn't it? That's why he will just continue with this number, okay? But I prefer this one. First chapter, 4th problem, like that, okay? Now look at here. I have a coordinate axis, x cap, y cap, z cap. I mean, these problems, again, in Griffiths, problems will make you to learn. Not only Griffiths, any book, why they will give problem, isn't it? They have to give only solutions, isn't it? So, because the problem, while handling the problem, you will learn a lot actually, okay? Okay, 1 here, I mean, this distance is 1, this distance is 2, this distance is 3. I'm going to form a plane containing these 3 lines. Can you imagine that plane? Can you imagine that plane? It's a kind of incline like this. Is that okay? Intercept are 1, 2 and 3. Intercepts, x-intercept of the plane is 1, y-intercept is 2, z-intercept is 3. So that's my plane. Now I need to find a unit vector perpendicular to this plane. And these ideas are needed again in crystallography. Okay? In crystallography, we need that one in while before discussing Bragg law and all. Quickly, what is the idea you use? You need a unit vector perpendicular to the plane. Now, just think whatever we discussed from the early morning. I hope you were not sleeping. Where we got a vector perpendicular to the plane? Cross product, isn't it? Now look at here. We discussed only 2, dot product and cross product. If you can't quickly grab within, I mean before those 2, so by the end of electrodynamics, you have a lot of concept to search. Is that okay? Your mind have to search within no time, remember. Is that okay? Again. So now, so cross product will give the vector perpendicular to the plane. Now choose a vector in this plane and take cross product, make it as a unit vector, divide by its magnitude. Will you do that one? But while doing, again he said perpendicular to the plane means there are 2 perpendiculars to the plane. Isn't it? One is like this, other is ulta. Isn't it? So he is asking this one, n cap. He mentioned in the diagram, okay? He is asking this one, n cap. So now take any 2 vector, but be careful because your cross product is, I mean A cross B is not equal to B cross A, okay? So again, so how do you choose? One is this one, A, other is this one, A, B. Am I right? I can define these 2 vectors and I can take A cross B. A cross B will be perpendicular to that, isn't it? Or A cross B. A cross B will be perpendicular. Now, how do you find A? What is this one? 1, 0, 0. What is this one? 0, 2, 0. What is this one? 0, 0, 3. How do you define vector from x1, y1, z1 to x2, y2, z2? x2 minus x1, x cap, plus y2 minus y1. I hope you know this. Am I right? Vector from x1, y1, z1 to x2, y2, z2. From 2. Arrow is towards x2, y2, z2. Okay? So that is, so that vector is x2 minus x1 into x cap plus y2 minus y1 into y cap plus z2 minus z1 into z cap. I hope you know that one. So using this idea, construct vector A, construct vector B. You know what is the initial and final positions. Am I right? You can construct these 2 vectors. You have x1, y1, z1, x2, y2, z2. x1, y1, z1, x2, y2, z2, isn't it? So after that, take cross product, divide by its magnitude, that's a unit vector, isn't it? So can you do this one? Yeah, I need all of this idea in case of yeah, let me just plan for that one, okay? So for crystallography, we are referring V. Raghavan, okay? What is that name of the book? I think Material Science and Engineering, okay? For different part, we better refer different books, okay? For crystallography, V. Raghavan, lot of collection of problems. So there again, I'm going to come to this kind of things, okay? Your Miller indices and this kind of cross product, reciprocal lattice vector, like that, okay? I need all of this dot product, cross product idea. Yeah, by that time, you can again just revise all of this, okay? Just try to do this problem yourself. In that effort, definitely you will remember these techniques, okay? Now, quickly. So, triple products. So, triple products. Scalar triple product. What is this one? A dot B cross C. A dot B cross C. How do you define? Again, it's also, I mean, I think if you change A to B, B to C, C to A, again it will be followed. Okay, C dot B to A should go here. A cross B should go here. B. Okay, so that's equal to B should come here. C should go here, A should go here. In a cyclic permutation, just remember this one, just like earlier. Okay, so scalar triple product will follow this kind of rule. So now, how do you define ultimately? AX, AY, AZ, BX, BY, BZ, CX, CY, CZ. You get here. While going from here to here, we have done interchange of two rows. You can check it out. Am I right? While going from here to here, equivalent to this one. I mean, you have interchanged two rows. That's why again there is no negative sign. Remember, okay? Suppose if you interchange only to look at here, this is A cross B. Am I right? Now look at here. Now let me just generate the property by seeing the what do you call this determinant. If this is equal to this one, A dot B cross C. If A dot B cross C equal to this one, now let me generate rule. So I'm going to interchange A and B. Then these two should interchange. Am I right? If these two interchange, that's equal to negative of earlier. So that's why I can just write the property A dot B cross C is equal to minus of B dot A cross C. Am I right? Don't think that we have equated here. Look at here, B dot A cross C is not there. B dot C cross A is there. Now take this one. So C cross A equal to minus A cross C. Dot product is commutative. Again, you can prove this. Once you write that one as a determinant, then its property become property of the determinant. Isn't it? So interchanging any two vectors here, place of any two vectors here is equivalent to interchanging two rows. Am I right? Interchanging any two rows, it will change the sign of the determinant, isn't it? Again, he's writing one more property, very strange. A dot B cross A, am I right? We can interchange that cross product and dot product. A cross B don't write A cross B dot C cross A, okay? A cross B dot C have got no meaning. I hope you get that. Why? It's a scalar. How do you take cross product with a vector, isn't it? You can interchange dot product and cross product, isn't it? ABC, ABC. Again, here you can think, am I right? This I can write it as, so C dot A cross B, am I right? C dot A cross B. From here to here, I think two places are interchanged. Just you can check it out. Am I right? Two rows are interchanged from while going from here to here. When two rows are interchanged, its sign will not change, isn't it? Or sign changes twice. Negative, again negative. Now, so what is the geometrical interpretation? That's the volume of the parallelepiped. So, whose sides are A, B, C? Can you write one sentence? Mod of A dot B cross C. Mod of A dot B cross C. Mod of A dot B cross C is volume of parallelepiped generated by very good tool to find whether those vectors are coplanar or not, isn't it? I think I explained in quantum mechanics, when vectors are coplanar, they are linearly dependent, am I right? One vector can be written as a linear combination of other. I hope I explained this. Wait a second to make it clear. Let me take board as a plane, okay? I have a vector A here, I have a vector B here, okay? Any other vector, any other arbitrary vector can be written as some scalar into this one. I mean, this we call this one as linear combination, am I right? B into B vector, isn't it? Now look at here, that scalar may be negative, remember. So take A, so make it as minus A, multiply with some negative, and take B, extend this B, isn't it? You can do anything. You can multiply them by a scalar, that may be negative also, and you can add them and you can generate any other vector. That's why in a two dimension, you can have only two linearly independent vectors, am I right? Can you write A in terms of B? Can you write A in terms of some constant multiple of B? No, both have the same direction, am I right? Multiplying by a scalar will not change the direction. You can't write A is equal to some constant into B, remember, that cannot be written. Why? So both have the different direction. If you have any two vector in a plane which has some angle other than 0, they are other than 0 or other than 180. Isn't it? 180 means you can put minus 1, be careful. Other than 0 or 180, they are linearly independent, isn't it? So now in two dimension, you can have at the most two linearly independent vectors, isn't it? That's how we define dimension, isn't it? What is the dimension? The maximum number of linearly independent vectors that we can construct. isn't it? That's why any third vector can be written as linear combination of these two, isn't it? Any third vector. So that's why, suppose if you have, again, so you got two kind of question. One is whether a given vectors are linearly independent or not. They may ask that question. And I think in Jatili, he has done that kind of problem. Have you seen? In the very beginning, he has taken this idea to do that problem. Remember. So suppose, if you have three vectors, if you want to find whether they are linearly independent or not, so take a scalar, so triple product. If that is 0, that means they are on the plane. If they are on the plane, they are linearly dependent. If that is non-zero, that means they are forming volume. Am I right? Volume of the parallelepiped. That means they are. So both are. So suppose vector A is like this, vector B is like this. Vector C will be not in this plane. Then look at here. They are linearly independent. So there is no way of writing C in terms of linear combination of A and B. If you make linear combination of A and B, you will get a vector in that plane. Is that okay? If you can't feel that one, construct vector A, vector B, okay? C is out, C is not on the plane, okay? This vector C is out of this plane, just imagine, okay? So this C makes some projection like that. Now look at here, there is no way of writing C in terms of linear combination of A and B, because if you linearly combine A and B, you will get a vector in that plane. You will never get a vector outward from the plane, isn't it? That's why A, B, C are linearly independent. Is that okay? Then what would happen? Obviously, in this case, it will form on parallelepiped, isn't it? We can form on parallelepiped, and its area, volume is non-zero. Am I right? Whenever scalar triple product, you better write a sentence, isn't it? Make it in a sentence. If scalar triple product is 0, then vectors are coplanar. If scalar triple product A dot B cross C is 0, write like that. If scalar triple product A dot B cross C is 0, if scalar triple product A dot B cross C is 0, that means they are coplanar. Full stop. If they are coplanar, one vector can be written as, make it brief. If they are coplanar, one vector can be written as linear combination of other one. Isn't it? That's what I wanted to argue here. One vector can be written as linear combination of other one, and we say they are linearly dependent, not independent. And we say they are linearly dependent. Okay, can you extend the sentence? If a scalar triple product is non-zero, then vectors are non-coplanar. They are linearly independent. Why they are linearly independent? If you add any two vector, you will get a vector in that plane, but other vector is out of the plane. Okay, this is all because of this characteristic. That scalar triple product is the volume of the parallelepiped, isn't it? Now look at here. You can B and C also constructs one plane. Am I right? You can construct a plane containing B and C. Now, if you linearly combine B and C, you will get a vector in that plane. You will never get vector A. Is that okay? Whenever they form a parallelepiped, okay, whenever they are not coplanar, they are linearly independent. Okay. Yeah, again, similar concept I am going to take in crystallography. we can span the space using linearly independent vectors, isn't it? You can write any vector. If you form two linearly independent vectors in a plane, you can form any vector in terms of linear combination. Am I right? So again, you can form a basis. Your x cap and y cap is one of the bases, isn't it? So you can write any vector in terms of x cap and y cap, linear combination of x and y cap. Whatever I write here, a vector equal to ax into x cap plus ay into y cap. Yeah, this is the linear combination actually of x cap and y cap. But in crystallography, we try to write that one as integer linear combination. Let me come to that point later, okay? Integer linear combination of basis vector. That's our, we are referring to lattice or something, okay? Yeah, scalar triple product. Then vector triple product. Scalar triple product, vector triple product, A cross B cross C. A cross B cross C, that's obviously a vector, am I right? So we have back cab rule. I hope you know that one. We call this one as back cab rule. B A C minus C A B. C A B. Wait a second, let me check it out. Yeah, this is called as back cab rule. You remember like that. Back cab rule. This can be written like this. Again, I am not worried about proof, okay? Yeah, we need this one, okay? Many cases. So what I suggest is you can't remember all of these formulas, now onwards, okay? So up to now it was very simple. Whenever we need in the theory, we can come back and we can look at this one, okay? Problems will not be designed like that, okay? So that you should remember that one, very less probable. But you better remember this one, okay? This particular one is very, frequent, very frequent. So when we use that one frequently, definitely you will remember, okay? Now, so he has written two more rules, okay? Just list out them. Let me just skip those two rules, but let me write this one. A cross B cross C. A cross B cross C, that's equal to minus C cross A cross B. Obviously, am I right? Take this one as one vector, this one as other vector. If you interchange, cross product is not commutative, am I right? You will get one more negative sign, obviously. So now again you can put, again you can use back cab rule and you can write this one, isn't it? But this vector triple product will follow one very important rule, and similar rules were there in many cases. In many cases, suppose if you take your, I think, Poisson bracket and something, okay, similar rule will follow usually. A cross B cross C, we call this one as Jacobian identity, okay? So change A to B, B to C, C to A. C cross A to B, B to C, B to C, plus B here, C to A should be here. That's equal to 0. B cross determinant, am I right? Writing the determinant. Yeah, this is called as Jacobian identity. Try to list out after while revising, okay? You better list out all of this kind of Jacobian identity. It will come in various subject, am I right? I think in quantum mechanics also we had like this somewhere in commutation. LX, LY, LZ. Am I right? Commutation of LX, LY, LZ. Like that, I think in case of Poisson bracket also, you have the similar Jacobian identity, okay? They may design question, so you better make it very general, okay? But it should be in cyclic permutation. I'm not generalizing this one. So A should be replaced by B, I mean A should go to B should go to C should go to A, like that, okay? Now, he has given that one as a problem. And he listed out two more, what you call, identities. Let me just skip them. Whenever we need, we shall look at that one, okay? Now look at here. What is the? No, A dot C is a scalar multiplied to the vector. I mean, you better to write A dot C here. Are you getting my point? This is a scalar. A dot C is a scalar that's multiplied to the vector, rescaled. I mean, so to say it is a back cap rule, we have written that one there. Is that okay? To remember that it is a back cap rule, we have written like that. Isn't it? There is no logic. Usually whenever you have a scalar, we prefer writing that scalar here, A into vector A, am I right? So to have a mnemonics, I think, so we prefer writing like that. Is that okay? But usually scalar should be multiplied here, not here. But both are same, isn't it? Both are same, but you feel a little uncomfortable, isn't it? There is no other operation here, not any dot product, because it should be vector, resultant should be vector. Is that okay? So if you have a dot product, resultant cannot be vector, okay? Not any dot product. Scalar multiplied with a vector, scalar multiplied with a vector. Okay? Now, let me get into Griffiths symbols. And many cases, questions are also designed in that symbol only, most general. Because the whole book is, so we have to discuss with the same symbol, isn't it? So, position, displacement and separation vector. Position vector, displacement vector and separation vector, suppose. So, remember, we will choose origin somewhere here, okay? Origin somewhere here. So, usually in our, the whole electrodynamics can be seen like that. You have a source, you have a field point, okay? You have a source somewhere. That source may be charge, which produces electric field. Okay, that source may be current, which produces magnetic field. That source may be, so rate of change of magnetic field, which produces electric field. That source may be rate of change of electric field, which produces magnetic field. Again, electrodynamics is done actually. Is that okay? Now, look at here. Again, that source may be anything. That source may be anything. Now, that source point, either charge or current. Let me just restrict myself to static case, okay? Not dynamic case. Static case means steady current and static charge, okay? Let me just discuss later. So, suppose this is source point. That may be either a part of your current carrying conductor, or that may be a point charge, or a part of charge distribution like that, okay? That source point from origin in this whole textbook, it is defined as vector r prime, source point, okay? So now field point, this is field point. I mean, I have a charge here, you are finding the field here, you don't have to choose your origin here, remember. You can choose origin anywhere, isn't it? Are you getting my point? That's why I have chosen origin arbitrarily. You have a source here, you are going to find field here. Suppose you have a current element here, you are going to find magnetic field, or you have a charge here, you are going to find electric field here, okay? So I can choose origin anywhere. That's our choice, isn't it? Now from that origin to the point where we are finding the field, we are going to call that vector as small r vector. Okay, we call this as field point. From origin to field point, we generally refer that one as r vector. Terminology, okay? So terminology. from origin to source point, we call it as r prime vector. Now, so usually origin, God haven't created origin earlier, am I right? So all of our rules and laws, they refer to the distance between source point and field point, or relative orientation, relative direction, or whatever, isn't it? That's why we need a separation vector, isn't it? We need a separation vector. So that is usually source to field point, okay? That is, in this book, it is referred as italic R vector. Italic R. Is that okay? If anybody is using italic R vector frequently, then it's definitely that they are referring Griffith's book. Italic R vector, most general one, okay? Most general one again. Now, according to your vector addition or subtraction, how do you write italic R? R minus R prime or R prime minus R? R minus R prime, R vector minus R prime. This is R prime, then this is minus R prime, am I right? Minus R prime plus R prime resultant, isn't it? So R vector minus R prime vector. R vector minus R prime vector. Okay. Now I'll switch over to Cartesian coordinate, because I mean this is the most general rule, okay? That origin, I mean, now I have just chosen origin, I haven't chosen particular coordinate system, remember. Coordinate system will be chosen according to situation. So according to symmetry, property of the situation, remember, okay. So that's why now let me get into Cartesian coordinate, later we shall discuss other coordinates. So in Cartesian coordinate, again let me take x cap, y cap, z cap, okay. So this is the origin. Now this is my field point. So what is the field point? That's represented by R vector. This is my source point, that is R prime vector. From here to here, I have italic R vector. Source point, field point. Yeah, the question? Pick up. Are you talking about field? I think if you talk about electric field is a kind of imaginary one. I mean, yeah, we shall discuss that one. While when we get into electrostatic, we shall discuss that one. So don't, I mean, if you know the theory after this one, definitely your mind will struggle here, definitely. Because here many uncomfortable things will come if you know the theory beyond this one. So that's why first you have to learn this one properly, then you have to go for theory beyond. So definitely whenever I think the theory beyond, definitely I'll also feel uncomfortable here, okay. So how those field works, isn't it? We can't give 100% interpretation here. Again, even Newton was also not comfortable with his own Newton's law of gravitation, remember. How one mass will communicate to other mass which is very far away, isn't it? How one charge will communicate to other charge. That communication, we feel that if you place one charge, there will be electric field, and in the place of that electric field, we place other charge, there will be force, isn't it? But how does other charge know that this charge is here? And obviously, in whole story, at the end of this book, we have to respect relativity, isn't it? If you move this charge, there should be finite time of that news to travel there, that this charge moved, and you should feel different force, isn't it? Suppose I have charge Q1 here, Q2 here, isn't it? The ultimate thing is how they are communicating. So now what we explain here is there is a field that is generated by Q1. In the field you place it Q2, or you can treat ulta also. But if you are concentrating on force on Q2, what you are going to assume, Q1 is producing field. In that field you are placing Q2, and force on Q2 is equal to how do you write Q2 into electric field generated by Q1, like that we explain. But ultimate thing is how they are communicating. Again, still we feel always uncomfortable here. So, but this is how we do. This is how we formulate the whole story. But when you just move this charge, this will not instantly grab that news actually. Obviously, the force experienced by this one is the distance between them. Am I right? It's depending on the distance between them. When it suddenly moves, that news will take finite time to travel, because no news can travel more than speed of light, other than some rumors, isn't it? Sometimes we feel like the rumors will travel more than speed of light, isn't it? So I just forget, okay? Just forget that one, okay? No news can travel more than speed of light, okay? Yeah. Now again, how does this charge know that this got moved, isn't it? So non-relativistically we say, it is instantaneous, but it is not actually, okay? So it will lead to some more theory. It will lead to some more theory. Again, so the whole story, if you think still deep, the questions remain, okay? What is the exact meaning of electric field? So we can't see the electric field. Still, how we say there is a field, isn't it? Again, that leads to development of further theory. But while studying this one, if you think of that one, you will definitely feel uncomfortable, okay? Yeah. So now I can write R. Now I'll call it as X comma Y comma Z. That's better. X prime comma Y prime comma Z prime. Am I right? Because let me call this one as unprimed, this one as primed. Sometimes you may need to integrate with respect to this one. Sometimes you need to integrate with respect to this one. Okay? So if you understand that one, that will be complete understanding. Are you getting my point? Suppose if you are doing line integral of the electric field, you are changing this field point. Okay? Suppose if you are doing some, sometimes you do integration with respect to this one, source point. Suppose if you have a charge distribution over the surface or over the volume, then if you want to find a resultant electric field, you are going to integrate with respect to this one. Okay? So that's why those, mentioning those things separately is very important. Okay? Field point, source point. Source point is primed coordinate. Field point is unprimed. Okay? So now look at here. R vector can I write as X into X cap plus Y into Y cap, Z into Z cap. So R prime vector, that's equal to X prime into X cap plus Y prime into Y cap plus Z prime into Z cap. Now my italic R vector, I can write it as R vector minus R prime vector. Am I right? I can write as X minus X prime into X cap, check it out, plus Y minus Y prime into Y cap plus Z minus Z prime into Z cap. Yeah, we define the same, just reply that. We can define all of your Gauss law, everything in gravitational theory also, inverse square law. And there was one question somewhere, I think in JAM exam, define Gauss law for gravitational field. Yeah, we shall discuss. Now, sometimes, not sometimes, most of the time, we need this R cap, okay? So why your electric field is from source point to field point, am I right? I mean, if you have a point charge here, your electric field is along that direction. Okay. So now look at here, r cap is equal to r vector by mod of r vector. You can write as, so just write down this one. What is the mod of r vector? Root of x minus x prime the whole square plus y minus y prime the whole square plus z minus z prime the whole square. Here in the numerator, so x into x minus x prime into x cap plus y minus y prime into y cap plus z minus z prime into z cap. Or again, I wanted to continue, but it takes a lot of time. Now, simultaneously, let me get into chapter 2. Okay, because in the beginning, we don't need much calculus part. Now, whatever we have done, this is algebra, vector algebra. Now, try to solve problem. There are arguments like that. No, I mean, you can keep a charge by some other force, right? Then you can discuss about electrostatic. So that's how we do. When you rub a surface, some insulating surface, charges will be held by the surface, right? That's correct. Then again, we can rub another surface, or we can put a charge to another surface. Suppose a metal, which you can use some other method to charge that one. You can discuss electrostatics, remember, even in the day-to-day life. But you can't keep a charge at rest in the only electrostatic field that I'm going to discuss later in the potential chapter. So again, you may be talking about, he may be talking about that, okay? But usually, when you can attach that charge to something, right? You can have a charge which is attached to a conductor. You can have a charge which is attached to insulator. We had electrostatic, okay? Many times we make use of that, okay? Electrostatic, pure electrostatic. So now, usually you can't keep a charge at rest in the field, isn't it? Now again. Now, in electrostatic, again, let me just discuss some basic about electrostatics. Okay. So, suppose usually capital Q is referred for test charge in this book. Okay. Small q is referred for source charge. So, because we define electric field, am I right? Force per unit charge or force on unit charge like that. So, now look at here. So, now I have many charges here. So, Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4 and so on, okay. So, actually what our idea is to find force on the test charge here, okay. So, just imagine somebody is holding, this one, okay, just imagine that one. So, I have test charge Q here, okay. Usually our aim is to find force on some charge here, but I call that one as test charge to define electric field. So, what we do here is these charges will form a resultant electric field. In that electric field, I am placing other charge. So that again, we are going to define the force. Is that okay? Now, look at here. So, first main thing here is force on this charge due to all of these charge will follow superposition principle. Superposition principle means you can find force due to first charge. Force on this test charge, I'll call it as test charge. Force due to first charge plus I can add vectorially. I can find force due to first charge. Again, let us find what is that force law later. That's our Coulomb's law, isn't it? Force due to any two charge, that's our Coulomb's law. But before getting into Coulomb's law, let us understand this point. What is that one? I can find force on this stress charge due to Q1. I can find force on this stress charge due to Q2. Similarly, due to Q3. Okay. And I can add them vectorially. And I can find the resultant force on charge Q. Is that okay? So now while writing here, we explored one idea. What is that idea? Interaction between any two charges is completely unaffected by the presence of the other. Isn't it? We are taking these two interact independently. We have written what you call force due to that one. Isn't it? We have taken while these two interaction happens, we are not thinking about presence of this one. And we are saying all of them happens independently. And that's why we are adding them vectorially. That's very important point actually. Again, we feel now it is very obvious, am I right? A kind of common sense, am I right? That's how we have done already. But while formulating the theory, you have to state that one. You are allowed to do that. Okay? You are allowed to do that one. We call it one as principle of superposition. What is that one? Interaction between any two charge is completely unaffected by the presence of other. Suppose this is also positive, this is also positive, these are also positive. Then F1 here, F2 here, like that. Am I right? Now you are adding F1, F2, F3 means those happened individually or those happened independently. Am I right? Those forces happened independently. While finding F1, you are thinking that there is no Q2 or other charges. While finding F2, you are thinking there is no other charge other than Q2. You are finding those forces individually and you are adding them vectorially. So we call that one a superposition principle. Yeah. Somebody is holding this one. That's why I told like that. Somebody is holding this one. Suppose you rubbed, suppose this may be continuous distribution of charge. Maybe the point charges are very difficult to hold. But still you can design. You can ionize something and you can put it into one surface. Isn't it? You can hold even point charge. No need, okay? No need. But while discussing, we take that one as a positive so that, again, if that is negative, your early resultant force will be ulta, that's it. Okay? But while formulating, we will not take a sign for the test charge. But Q will be there in your formalism. Okay, if Q is negative, whatever the vector you are going to write n cap, it will be opposite. It will take care. Yeah. So, can you just write this sentence? Interaction between any two charges is completely unaffected by the presence of other. That leads to this one actually. That leads to resultant forces, vector addition of individual force. Interaction between any two charges is completely unaffected. It's completely unaffected by the presence of other. We will never discuss what is the nature of test charge, okay? But it will be there in our formula, whatever the force, ultimate force you define. If test charge is negative, that will take care, okay? That you are going to put negative sign over there, it will take care, okay? Yeah. So, I have written the sentence. Interaction between any two charge is completely unaffected by the presence of others. So, this will lead to principle of superposition. So, this will lead to principle of superposition of forces actually. What is the superposition? Superposition of forces or superposition of field. Again, that will be converted into superposition of field. You will see that one later. Yeah, pick up. He has written some more ideas here, okay? Superposition is not a logical necessity, but it is an experimental fact. It's not to make theory easier. Imagine like that and go on. It will happen like that. Okay? So, see the footnote. So, Coulomb's law. Coulomb's law. I have a charge Q here. I have a charge capital Q here. We always look at here. Coulomb's law also defined like source charge, test charge. That's the best way so that we can quickly get into electric field concept. Okay. So from source to charge to test charge, we have defined italic R vector. Am I right? Do you remember? From this is source, suppose. This is test charge. Test charge means the point where we are going to measure the field later. Okay. That's why this is the italic R. Then our Coulomb's law, force on that test charge. That's how we define. So due to this source charge, that's equal to 1 by 4 phi epsilon naught. So Q into capital Q divided by R square, distance between them square, into R cap. Where epsilon it is a permittivity of the free space. Again, this whole thing is written for free space, okay? Otherwise, you have to change this one. Epsilon naught is a permittivity of the free space. I hope you know this one. I'm not going to elaborate. 8.85 into 10 raised to 12. 8.85 into 10 raised to minus 12 Coulomb square divided by Newton meter square. Newton meter square. Epsilon naught will go here, force will come here, charges multiplication, Coulomb square, Newton meter square. Yeah. So now look at here, this force law, it is independent of the choice of the origin, isn't it? This force law is independent of the choice of the origin. Now look at here, let me take, so let me take Q here, capital Q here, okay? Q here, capital Q here. Now you can choose your origin, that's your choice, somewhere here, okay? Now look at here, this is italic R vector from source to point. Now what is the source charge vector according to his notation? R prime vector. What is this notation? R vector. Am I right? Now what is italic R? Wherever you choose the origin, remember this vector in space that remains constant. Am I right? That remains same. Separation vector. We call that one as separation vector. Okay. So that is R vector minus R prime vector. Italic R is equal to R vector minus R prime vector. So why I am writing this one? Because suppose if there are many charges, earlier I have taken there are many source charges. Am I right? Q1, Q2, Q3 like that. Now look at here, R prime was varying, isn't it? Suppose if you have only one test charge, so I mean this R will not vary, R prime will vary. You need to make summation over that R prime, or sometimes if it is continuous, you need to make integration over R prime. Okay, that is the next story. Now look at here, Coulomb's law and principle of superposition constitute physical input for electrostatic. I mean, our whole electrostatic is over here. Physics part is over here actually. Physics part is over here. The rest is except for some special properties of matter is mathematical elaboration of these fundamentals. Whatever Gauss law, potential formalism, whatever you extrapolate, those are just mathematical formalism, remember. Other than our properties of matter, suppose polarization property, those things that we are going to discuss, electric fields in matter, the chapter name electric fields in matter. But other than that, so rest of all, potential formalism, Gauss law, everything, so those are pure mathematical elaboration. So physics part is done here almost. This is the only physics part. Okay. So that's why understanding of vector calculus is the very basic thing. Yeah. So we shall see in the evening. Again, you don't have much homework. Okay, now do that problem. Wait a second, sorry. So second chapter, first two problem. 12 equal charges are placed on the numbers of a clock. Suppose clock, imagine a clock, 12 equal charges are placed in each place. What is the force on the charge placed at the center? Similarly, 13-sided polygon takes 13-sided regular polygon. Regular polygon means each side should be equal. And similar charges are placed at the vertices of the polygon. What is the net force on the charge at the center? Just think over it and try to solve. I think that's 2.1, 2.2. First and second problem in second chapter. Okay, electricity. Not getting. Yeah, both A and B. They can do both A and B. So then he modifies that problem. If one charge in that vertex of the polygon is missing, what is the net force like that? Okay, yeah, just try to solve it. Okay. Today is government holiday, am I right? We shall take class from 4 o'clock. You can study tomorrow. No, early morning again I have class. Isn't it? We used to study like that. Early morning. 2 hours, maximum 2 hours. Maximum 2 hours. I want to compensate yesterday.